Just a few more ships, and the set of Earth vessels is complete and ready for sail.
Among the checklist of tropes every cartoon must have as a rite of passage, such as body swapping, the big dance, and a beach scene, a fishing episode is usually thrown in the mix too. The discussion about what it means to feel like the classic series is usually dictated by the characters' personalities and interactions, but one thing the classic series was notable for was its micro-adventures with a unique one-off villain. Ever since the franchise started primarily taking place in Bellwood, the feeling of a throwaway adventure has been lost, and we're usually balancing between an arc-focused event or trying to keep things relatively simple. But there's this middle ground charm that Classic used to have, where it seemingly developed an entire world that could easily have been its own arc, where the characters go on an entire adventure from start to finish within a 22-minute runtime. And very often, these throwaway worlds are never explored or mentioned again. There's something special about these one-off grand adventures that still makes Classic interesting, and this episode seems like it wants to play into that feeling again, but ultimately, I'd call this a bust. The episode has a very slow start, but it's nice to show off Rook's intuition with learning new things, and even tries to share his knowledge with Ben. The idea of Korg stealing entire ships, people included, to sell in space is an interesting concept, but concept alone, because this story seems to challenge itself with how mundane they can present this idea. Omniverse also seems to be afraid to really delve into the drama and stakes of the scenarios it creates. Similar to So Long and Thanks for All the Smoothies, it just has off-screen, easy-to-miss screams to imply terror, and that's about it.
Now this is an unpredictable predicament. And it sounds like I'm not the only one you caught.
It's almost like the show doesn't even want you to care about the dangers Ben faces, and just be entertained by colorful, flashy characters void of any relatability. At least in Classic, when the characters were scared or in danger, there were efforts to make you feel the same as well, putting you right into the episode. But with this, I don't feel anything. We're not just going through the motions, we're dragging our feet through it. And I think the writers' conversations about the plot accidentally made it into the actual script.
What are they up to?
Well, it'll come to me.
Like, does anyone actually care about what's happening here?
Your ship bottling days are over!
On a plus side, Captain Korg was the first time I felt Omniverse succeeded in emulating a classic series villain. A one-off, powerful but not too powerful tyrant with simplistic goals, voiced by Rob Paulson, is a recipe for something great. But again, it doesn't go beyond his concept, as he's so forgettable, I'm struggling to write anything significant about him beyond his design for this section. Though, when taking a look at his concept art, he had potential to look even cooler and more classic authentic. I will never understand Omniverse's obsession with stripping characters of their unique proportions and oversaturating their color palette. It's nice to have an episode where Max is an active player in the story again, outside of his role as either exposition dump or the voice of reason. Here, Max gets to be just another man in the mix, and having Patelladay on his side as an old friend was a smart move. Magister Patelladay is one of Omniverse's infinitely growing roster of comic relief characters, but unlike the one-note blisters like Pax, Hoakstar, or Skurd, Patelladay has a certain likability to him that makes his screen presence much more consumable. Omniverse seemed to do the impossible and actually make Jerry Rig cool. Using his powers to combine a bunch of defeated robots into one big robot is admittedly pretty awesome, though the scene barely lasts 10 seconds, giving you just enough information to appreciate the idea, but not long enough to actually enjoy it. A recurring theme in this episode. I love the fact that Rook's proto tool has a fishing rod function, showing the tech's greater diverse capability beyond just weapons. Nice to see Ripjaws again too, and I love that weird sound he makes. Though not a big fan of his new voice.
No problem. Ripjaws in the house.
Ha! Who's the best fisherman now?
But it's cool whenever Ben transforms into an alien alongside the same species. Maybe I'll make a video pointing out all the times that happened. And though all of the water animation is fantastic, the facial expressions felt a bit stiff compared to other episodes, along with Ben's transformations. If this was done in the UAF style, I'm sure folks would be giving unrelenting criticism for the lack of dynamic faces. This definitely felt like a lower priority episode for everyone involved, and just another slot in the season. And it looks like Max's infinite Tennyson strength does have a limit after all. Shout out to the ship looking like a skull though, that's pretty dope. Oh yeah, and the Kraken returns too. This episode just screams concept over execution all over the place. The importance is a straight 0. It may seem harsh as this score is among many criticisms I have of this episode, but let's be honest, does anything actually noteworthy happen here? This one was a struggle to get through. It feels like it wanted to be so much cooler than it actually was. The humor is flat, the stakes are barely focused on, the fight scenes are rushed, and there are no standout character moments. Patelladay gets captured, captured. Then they go rescue him, and that's the episode. Also, something about bottles, I guess?
I'm stealing boats and putting them in giant bottles!